you have a dream, then I think you want to keep pursuing it for it, and then the luck may come to a prepared person. So in my case, I wanted to come to the US for a long time, then prepared for it. Then Jeff was generous enough to have me first as a visit student, and then eventually I was very fortunate to be here as a real graduate student. But when I was a high school student, if I didn't do anything for studying English, or I didn't think about studying abroad, probably I was not able to get this luck. So, but I think
just do it.
Don't be shy about your dream, and then you can do it.
Okay, I'm Yuto Yabuchi, chemistry PhD student in the long group at UC Berkeley. So Berkeley has been my dream school since I was a middle or high school student. So this becomes a very long story. But when I was a third year of the middle school, which is 15 years old, Japanese chemistry professor Akira Suzuki and H. Negishi won Nobel Prize in chemistry. Although I didn't understand the technical details of the prize, I found chemistry cool, and Professor Negishi mentioned that artificial photosynthesis could be the next technology that may solve the energy problems. So I was a naive student, so I decided to major in chemistry and to study in Kobe City College of Technology. College of Technology in Japan offer special educational program, which is a combination of high school and undergraduate program, but students join as a high school ages and then start undergraduate research at an early stage. And my love for chemistry grew up there. But at the same time, I was thinking that I would like to do chemistry research in the US in the future, because I learned that Professor Negishi and Professor Suzuki both earned their PhD degrees in the US, and they indeed encourage Japanese students to study abroad. So I continued studying English, and I was dreaming to go to the US at some point. And when I went to a library in the college to actually learn how to go to the US as a graduate school, I found a book that highlights the Campanile, or the Caesar Tower of UC Berkeley, which caught my attention because the tower simply looks very cool. But later I learned that UC Berkeley is one of the best schools for chemistry. And I started to look into research groups that I may be interested in, and I found metal organic frameworks, or MOFs, are very interesting. Specifically, the research in the long group attracted my attention because our research directly address the energy problems using metal organic frameworks. So when I was a senior student of the undergraduate study, I came to US, the Berkeley, as a personal trip to visit Jeff, and told him that I really wanted to join his group as my PhD study. And it seems Jeff has a good opinion about him. But when I actually applied to the graduate school to Berkeley, the graduate office rejected my application. And unfortunately or fortunately, all of my graduate school applications were rejected.
Wow,
but I wanted to go to the US, so having no school to go as my graduate school, I decided to take a crazy action, which is send an email to Jeff and then asked to have me as a visit student for as a gap year. Then magically Jeff accepted me as a visit student, and I worked hard during my gap year and was able to obtain good or strong recommendation letter from Jeff, and now I'm here with his letter.
Wow, great.
So that's my long story to come to the Berkeley.
Very impressive.
So I'm going to graduate Berkeley in this May, 2026 May, and I'm going to MIT for my postdoc to study in Daniel Suez group, where I'm going to make a molecular cluster that mimics enzyme to understand the reactivity of metal enzymes.
Okay, good. So could you tell us about your hometown?
So I am from Itami City, which is near the Osaka area, which is the second biggest city in Japan. Nothing is special about my hometown. It's just a typical residential area. But one thing I like about my hometown is that they have many great sake breweries. My PhD study focused on controlling hydrogen adsorption in metal organic frameworks. But let me start from the motivation of the research. Hydrogen is a clean fuel that has been considered as an alternative for fossil fuels. Hydrogen can be produced from abundant resources such as biomass or water, so it's renewable. And it does not emit carbon dioxide when it is used as a fuel. But one of the challenges to use hydrogen as a fuel is that storing hydrogen is difficult. Currently, hydrogen is compressed at a really high pressure or liquefied at a cryogenic condition, or like 20 Kelvin. Such extreme conditions consume energy, but also incur some energy safety concerns. So ideally, we would like to store hydrogen at ambient conditions, room temperature and lower pressure. And this is why material-based storage systems have been proposed, such as metal hydrides, chemical hydrogen carriers, or porous adsorbents. And metal hydrides store hydrogen by breaking the H2 molecule to make a H atom, and then recombine when we need hydrogen. Although high hydrogen adsorption capacity has been achieved at ambient conditions using metal hydrides, the dissociative storage mechanisms requires energy to recover the stored hydrogen, and also the kinetics is slow. In contrast, porous adsorbents store hydrogen as a molecule with a non-dissociative mechanism. So hydrogen molecule is adsorbed on the surface of porous adsorbent. So such non-dissociative hydrogen storage mechanism can offer facile adsorption kinetics and allowing for reversible, cyclable hydrogen adsorption. And metal organic frameworks are crystalline porous compounds that are tunable to control the surface functionality or pore size and geometry to obtain ideal hydrogen adsorption properties for target applications. So the most exciting moment during my PhD study is when I formulated my project, the main project that was eventually published in JACS as my first author paper. So again, my project was to control hydrogen adsorption enthalpy. But so again, my study focuses on controlling hydrogen adsorption at coordinatively unsaturated metal sites in metal organic frameworks. And specifically, I focus on copper-1 metal sites. And traditionally, it is known that this copper-zinc-based cluster can bind hydrogen very strongly with adsorption enthalpy of 33 kJ per mole. This adsorption enthalpy is by far the strongest among reported metal organic frameworks when I started my PhD. The problem was that the adsorption enthalpy is too strong that it is difficult to recover the stored hydrogen. But I knew this framework, but one day I synthesized an analogous framework entirely made of cadmium for another purpose. I presented this project to Jeff at the subgroup meeting, and then Jeff asked me, think about what happened if you introduce copper to this framework. And then I started to think what would happen for the copper site, and I realized that because cadmium has larger ionic radius than zinc, the copper site, the tripodal scaffold will be expanded for the cadmium analog, and the copper sites will sink toward the bottom to realize more planar geometry compared to the original copper zinc framework. And then, realizing that the copper site becomes more planar, I took a piece of paper and drew a result expected molecular orbital diagram to consider what will happen for hydrogen adsorption enthalpy. And then I realized that this copper site at cadmium framework could show weaker hydrogen adsorption enthalpy. And excitingly, indeed, the resultant copper cadmium framework shows weaker hydrogen adsorption compared to the original copper zinc framework. And even more excitingly, hydrogen adsorption enthalpy was found in the optimal range for ambient temperature hydrogen adsorption. And I was able to achieve the second example of a MOF that shows optimal hydrogen adsorption enthalpy. So I'm proud of this project because very fundamental coordination chemistry is connected to the material properties and solve the existing problem. The major challenges that I encountered for the first 2 years in the US is language barrier, because I'm from Japan and English is not my not my first language. Eventually, I feel I'm comfortable to speak English, but I was so shy and that I was afraid of making a mistake in grammar. But eventually, I just forget about everything, and probably I have already made many mistakes in English grammar in this interview, but I was just started to not be afraid of making mistakes. And yeah, institution was an exclusively undergraduate school, and I was not really able to compare the research environment of my undergrad and that in US or Berkeley. But what I can say is that in Japan, graduate students usually do not get paid, but instead they pay tuitions. But in the US, I'm lucky that I get paid from Jeff, and if I were potentially I was not able to complete my PhD study in Japan for financial reasons. So I'm very fortunate that I can study in Berkeley.
Can I ask how much you get paid?
After tax, I get, I think, monthly $3,800-ish dollars.
So you can manage your life here?
Yes, if you do not eat outside every day, or if you do not waste your time, it's typically okay to live alone.
No.
But the rent is also high in Berkeley.
Yeah, right.
So it's not doesn't mean it's rich.
No.
I can feel rich when I go back to Japan because yen is kind of cheap now. But for the considering the rent or
How much spend for your land?
$1,100 per month, I live in relatively inexpensive place.
I see. Also, usually for the lunch or dinner, so you lunchbox or you are eating outside?
I usually bring my lunchbox, but some students get lunch often every day. I eat for like inexpensive places. It's doable, but I just do not for considering my health. Okay. Group culture is very friendly. We are very collaborative, and also like we have some group events or group parties very often. That makes me like not feel lonely, or I feel I'm very fortunate to study in the long group.
So, what kind of equipment do you use for your experiment?
Okay, so starting from the most routinely used techniques, I use powder X-ray diffraction (PXLD) or gas adsorption analyzer for surface area measurement or hydrogen adsorption isotherms. But I also use thermogravimetric analyzer (TGA) and infrared spectroscopy (IR) and nuclear magnetic resonance, nuclear magnetic NMR. But probably these are mostly most routine techniques. There may be some that I didn't list. And also, we don't do this in our lab, but I attended beam time to do X-ray absorption spectroscopy. And also, I do powder X-ray diffraction using synchrotron radiation, where we can get much better data than our lab. And I like beam time. So I have attended beam times at R.long National Lab or Spring 8 in Japan. But I like beam time because I can travel using our lab's money. But also, I feel I'm really doing research surrounded by a huge instrument, and then I can obtain very exciting data using some in situ techniques. We can analyze the response of materials under different gas conditions or temperature to understand the origin or mechanism of gas adsorption in our materials.
Wow. So, do you have any advice for students who are planning to study in US?
Okay, studying in the US for graduate studies sounds intimidating, especially if you have not been to another country or if your first language is not English. But the graduate school applications in the US is done online, and although there are many things you have to do, but if you do one by one, eventually you will reach a point where you just have to click submit in your application. So it's just a collection of small things. So if you would like to study in the US for graduate schools, what I recommend is start from what you can do from now. It may be starting from studying English to take an English exam, or look for a research group that you would like to join. But the collection of small things will eventually lead to a place where you just basically click the button of submission and then it's end. So I like running, so I attended half marathons in Berkeley, and I run like every weekend.
Every weekend.
Every weekend about it depends, the distance depends, but like sometimes it's 6 miles, sometimes 10 miles.
Oh.
And other than that, I like to read comics or watch anime, and also enjoy playing video games with Nintendo Switch. But I also tend to work even during the weekend, but instead I take a long vacation for holidays and go back to Japan.
I like hot spring. So whenever I go back to Japan for my vacation, I often visit like hot spring in Japan because there are many hot springs. But the reason why I like them is I consider them as inorganic solutions that you can immerse your bodies in the solution. When you are in a lab, you have to wear personal protective equipment. You have to wear gloves. But there are some interesting hot springs in Japan. For example, that hot spring with very acidic, like pH nearly 2, and it sometimes contains H2S, it's sulfur. And you can smell H2S.
Yeah, we are chemists.
And then also depending on the metal ions or solute in hot spring, you can find the difference by texture, smell, colors, and I would like to analyze, okay, why this hot spring looks greenish, why this is so orange. It contains a lot of iron, or it sometimes smells iron. So I really like hot spring to relax and also like feel chemistry in the real life. It's good.
Yeah, so good. Very funny.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for watching the video. Okay. Let me start again. Okay. So thank you for watching the video. And what I would like to say is that if you have a dream, then I think you want to keep pursuing it for it, and then the luck may come to a prepared person. So you can do it.